Today, we're going to dive into a really powerful story about a woman named Leena. It's a story about decades of pain, this slow burn of resilience, and that one moment when a person finally decides they've had enough. This is about a lifelong battle for dignity, fought against the very people who were supposed to protect her.
This single sentence, it just perfectly captures the world Leena grew up in, a world where she literally had to smother her sobs into a pillow so no one would hear. So how did she get here? Well, it all started with a devastating loss.
Leena's life took a really sharp turn after her mother passed away. Her loving aunt actually wanted to take her in, but her stepmother refused. And not because she cared for Leena, but because she was afraid of what the neighbors might say. And just like that, Leena's life as an orphan in her own home began.
And look, this wasn't just neglect. This was systematic cruelty. Leena was treated like a servant. She was forced to polish her stepbrother Rohan's shoes before school and then handle all the housework. Her dreams of studying were quite literally kept in the dark.
Can you just imagine hearing this from the person who's supposed to be your mother? This wasn't about saving money. Not really. It was about extinguishing any bit of hope she had. Leena had to study in secret, using the dim light from her phone, just terrified her stepmother would wake up. The only person who showed her any kindness was her father, but he felt powerless, often just apologizing to her in secret because he couldn't protect her.
So when her father died, Leena's last shield was just gone. And for her stepmother, this was an opportunity. She didn't see a grieving daughter, she saw a burden that needed to be offloaded. So with no say in the matter at all, Leena was married off, freeing her stepmother from what she called the responsibility.
You'd hope that maybe marriage would be an escape, right? But for Leena, it was just a different kind of prison. Her fight was far, far from over. Leena found herself completely and totally isolated. Her new husband was irresponsible, leaving her to raise their two children, Aryan and Mohini, all on her own. And she did whatever it took, sewing, cooking, even selling her own jewelry, just to keep her family afloat. And through all of this, her maternal family was just silent. No calls on birthdays, no invitations for festivals, nothing. She was truly, completely alone.
But after years and years of silent suffering, something finally started to shift. And it didn't start with Leena. It started with her children, who had been watching their mother's quiet strength their whole lives.
So this is a huge moment in the story. Leena's husband had racked up so much debt that they were losing their home. And who shows up? Her stepmother. Not to offer help, of course, but to gloat, telling a devastated Leena, "Reap what you have sown." But this time, someone was there to witness it, her teenage son, Aryan.
And for the very first time, someone spoke the truth directly to her abuser's face. Aryan, just a kid, confronted his grandmother. He called out her cruelty, her years of just being absent. It was a small act of defiance, yeah, but it planted a seed of strength in Leena.
And that seed, it finally blossomed years later. Her son Aryan had become successful, and now Leena's daughter Mohini was marrying this wonderful man. At the wedding, Leena's stepmother, just dripping with jealousy, made a really cruel remark about Mohini's character. But this time, Leena didn't stay silent. She calmly told her mother to either share in their happiness or leave. She was finally defending her own.
So, life was finally looking up for Leena. But just as she started to find some peace, her past came calling, with a suspiciously sweet voice.
The timing of this change of heart was, well, let's just say it was suspicious. For years, Leena's family had thrived while she suffered. But now, the tables had turned. Her brother Rohan's business had totally collapsed. And just like that, her stepmother's phone calls began. Suddenly she was Beta, my child, and missed so terribly.
This comparison really says it all, doesn't it? On the left, the words they threw at a desperate Leena who was losing her home, and on the right, the sweet poison they whispered when they were the ones in trouble. It's just a textbook case of manipulation. Her son, Aryan, he saw right through it. He warned his mother, reminded her of their whole history. But Leena, like so many people who have been starved of love, she held onto this tiny sliver of hope. That deep, primal need for a mother's affection, it just made her want to believe the change was real. And so, against her better judgment, against her son's warnings, Leena agreed to visit her childhood home. She was hoping for reconciliation, but she was walking straight into a meticulously planned trap. At first, everything seemed perfect. Her mother hugged her, cooked her favorite meal. It was everything Leena had ever dreamed of. But after dinner, the other shoe dropped. Her brother Rohan came out with a big stack of papers.
Such simple words, right? But they were hiding a lifetime of betrayal. Those papers were legal documents signing over her entire share of her father's property to her brother. All the fake love, the phone calls, the warm meal, it was all just a big ploy to get her signature.
But they had seriously underestimated Leena. This was not the broken little girl who cried into her pillow. This was a woman who had survived, who had raised 2 children on her own, and who had finally learned her own worth. She just looked at her mother, put the papers down, and said, "I will not sign." She calmly stated that as her father's daughter, she had an equal right to his legacy. This was her right, and there was absolutely no shame in claiming it.
And instantly, the mask of affection just vanished. In a flash, they were calling her greedy, shameless, even throwing her status as a stepdaughter in her face, claiming she wasn't of their blood. They proved in that one moment that their love was totally conditional and completely transactional.
Leena didn't raise her voice. She didn't cry. She just stood her ground with this quiet, unbreakable resolve. And with this one sentence, she drew a line in the sand. This wasn't about greed. This was about justice.
And then she just picked up her bag and walked right out the door. For the first time, leaving that house didn't feel like an abandonment. It felt like a liberation. She wasn't running away. No, she was walking toward her future on her own terms, promising to fight for what was hers through the proper legal channels.
Leena's story leaves us with a really powerful question, doesn't it? For her family, inheritance was just land and money. But for Leena, the legacy she fought for was dignity, self-respect, and breaking a cycle of abuse. It really makes you wonder, what is the true inheritance we leave behind?